Well, I would like to welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Derek Melber, and I truly appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your day to spend some time with us here at ManageEngine and the Active Directory Solutions team. We have been working in 2016 on many different fronts trying to get as many solutions as possible out to Active Directory administrators, and as we come to the end of 2016 here with quite a few webinars, we're going to be talking today about how we can automate cleaning up your Active Directory environment. Obviously, there are many different aspects of Active Directory that can go unnoticed, or things that can be left dangling. That is not a good security practice. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we give you solutions on how you can automate this so you can continue to do what you do on a daily basis, but in the background, things are being cleaned up. Just to give you a little bit more information about me, as I said, my name is Derek Melber, and I am the technical evangelist for the Active Directory Solutions team. And what that means for you is that I get the opportunity to travel the world. You'll see here that some of the different cities and countries we were in 2016, and I'm able to communicate with Active Directory administrators around the world, trying to get a broader view on how things are handled, what different issues are, and I try to bring those back to seminars and webinars and different blogs that I write. So it's a great job, and we have completed our 2016 World Tour, and we're currently working on our 2017 World Tour, which will start off probably in February of 2017. So if we're in a city near you, hopefully you come by and say hi. Also, I want to talk about some resources that we have available to you. We only have a little bit of time together today, but I want to leave you some resources that are free for you to obtain after we're done. First of all, that is my email address. Please email me with any questions that you might have, whether I know it, the Active Directory Solutions team knows it, or maybe another MVP that I know knows it. We'll try to get you answers to the different problems that you're running into with regard to Active Directory, group policy, security, really anything along those lines. Also, I want to point you to two different resources. One of them is our blog, and then one of them is our hardening site. If I kind of head out here to the internet and I go to our main landing page, just manageengine.com, when you hit this page, if you come over here to community and click on that, you will be sent to our community page, which has quite a few blogs, and of course in alphabetical order, the top one is Active Directory. And the Active Directory blog is really a way for us to communicate with you on different issues. So you'll see here that we talk about webinars that are coming up, so communicating with you on that, how to automate things, how to get things into the cloud applications. We have some security-based issues. We just have a lot of different things that the team, as well as myself, run into as we go through and do user conferences and seminars. So we try to take those questions that we get and kind of put them into blogs so that you kind of see what we're working on and what other people are asking questions about. The other resource I want to point you to is our security hardening site. Our security hardening site is a fantastic resource for organizations and Active Directory administrators to go in and get a step-by-step guide on how to secure your domain controllers and servers. Now, to get to the security hardening site, again, you come back to our manageengine.com landing page. You click on Active Directory, and you'll see a drop-down appear. In the lower right-hand corner of that drop-down, you'll see the security hardening for Active Directory. This is a site that was built by the entire team, and really it's a way for us to communicate, as you see here at the bottom, all of the different ways and areas you need to secure in Active Directory and in your Windows servers so that you know how to do that. So for example, if we pick Delegation and Active Directory, we have many blogs here that walk you through the process of how to report, how to actually secure, how to monitor, and alert on those changes that might occur inside of that. So those are some resources that you have available to you. They're absolutely free, and we really are honored that we can provide you with information around that. Logistics about today, this is being recorded, so if you want to come back, if you missed anything, or if you want to share it with someone else, it will be available. We will send you a link for attending to the recording. Also, if you have any questions, we have the team in the background that are silent but certainly waiting for your questions. If you have any questions, please just use the panel on the right-hand side and ask your questions, and they will get to those as we go through. If for some reason we don't get a chance to get to your question, we will email you an answer after the broadcast is over. So please continue to send those questions either through the panel, to me, to the events team, or really anyone on the Active Directory team, and we'd be more than happy to handle that. So that's just a little bit of logistics about things that are going on and things that we've been doing. But let's really jump into the material here. You know, one of the things that I have been working on as I've been involved with Active Directory and specifically with Manage Engine is trying to make administrators more efficient. So really the two things that I tell people that I do is I help administrators understand Active Directory to be more efficient and to be more secure. So really we're going to talk about both of those in today's talk as we walk through the different objects. Now, the automation of Active Directory really is about the objects in Active Directory. That's why we're going to talk about these certain things: computers, users, groups. We'll even get into group policy and Active Directory delegations. So what's important to understand about the automation of cleaning up Active Directory is not just to make Active Directory efficient and clean, but we want to do it primarily from a security standpoint. We don't want to leave dangling objects out there that aren't being used such that someone internal can find those objects and then maybe take advantage of them and try to hack into the system or directly access the system. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have something in the background, maybe on a daily basis, checking and verifying these objects to make sure that any objects that are meeting certain criteria that haven't been used are going to be disabled. So really that's the thrust of this automation piece. Now, of course, you can also consider automation for group membership, and you can set up automation for provisioning and deprovisioning of users, but that's not really cleanup, that's more management. And we've had workshops, and I've written blogs, and I know that there's been other webinars on those topics, but I really would just want to talk about the cleanup of Active Directory. So let's just jump in and talk about computer accounts. So with regard to our computer accounts, we need to make sure that any inactive computers are taken care of, because just like a user account, internal attackers can take advantage of these computer accounts that are in Active Directory and possibly gain information to something. So what we want to do is we want to, first of all, look at computer accounts that have been inactive, and if they've been active for a certain period of time, we want to do something with them. Now, if we jump into Active Directory here and look at some things that Microsoft provides, I'm going to jump into the Active Directory users and computers. Microsoft provides us with something called saved queries. Now, if I go in and I create a new saved query for inactive computers, and I go to my definition of a query, I can come over here and you'll see that I don't have an option for inactive computers. I do have an option for inactive users, days since last logon, but the computer option doesn't allow me that. So Microsoft really doesn't provide you with many options that you can go in and really dig through Active Directory finding these types of things. So what we have done is we've built tools that really are geared towards administrators doing their job better. Now, first of all, I want to talk about a report, and then we'll talk about how to automate that report. Because really the automation is nothing more than utilizing something that's in a report. So if I come in here to ADManager Plus and I look at reports for computers, you'll see that with a single click, I can look at inactive computers. Now, what does inactive mean? Well, inactive could mean that it's going to be inactive for however many days, right? So let's say the last 90 days, I want to know computers that have been inactive. So this is a report of computers in my domain, which is just a little test domain, which have not had any activity for 90 days. Now, I hope that you understand that these computers are Active Directory objects, and the actual physical machine may not even be there. But regardless, after 90 days, if a computer hasn't communicated with Active Directory, most likely that computer is shut off, doesn't need to be joined anymore, or it just needs to be cleaned out of Active Directory. So what do we want to do with this? Well, of course, we could come in here from the report, which we manually run, and we could move the computer to a particular container. But again, I don't want you taking time out of your day away from your normal activities to perform an activity that can be done in the background. So what I want to do is I want to show you this idea of automation. So let's say, for example, that I want a new automation, and I don't want to just move a computer, I want to disable a computer. So I'm going to create a new automation for a computer, and I want to disable the computer. Now, this clearly says that I am going to disable inactive computers, right? So simply, at this point, I typed in something that's a variable. I selected computer, I selected disable. So with a couple of clicks, you're already performing the actions that you want. Now you simply need to pick which computers. Well, I don't want to have to manually run that report and drag and drop it, but I don't have to. I simply come in here and select inactive computers, inactive for the last 90 days, and I then set it up to run, let's say, daily at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm done. So what I'm pointing out here is you need to understand, first of all, you need to get a list of computers. Okay, that's going to be our report. That's why I showed you the report first. Then you need to perform actions in the background on computers that meet that criteria. So any computers that show up in the report, you want to perform functions on them. But what if you also want to move the computer? Obviously, I'm assuming most of us on this webinar fully understand group policy, and group policy can be applied to computers. So I not only want to disable the computer, but I want to move the computer. But you'll see in this environment, it's one or the other. Well, that's why we've created something called an automation policy. So an automation basically leverages a list, and you're performing some action on them. If the action is more than a single action, you create an automation policy. And an automation policy basically can say, disable and move computers. So this is going to be a computer automation. I'm first of all going to disable the computer. I'm going to add a task, and I'm going to move the computer to, let's say, I think I still have it here. It is right here, quarantine. Now it says quarantine users, but it can say quarantine computers too, obviously. So now I can save this policy, which is performing multiple actions. And now that I have this policy in place, when I go back to my automation and I set up a new automation for computers, I now have that option in place. So not only am I putting one action in place, I'm putting multiple. So again, it's the same idea, I'm just putting more leverage behind the automation. This is how simple these automations can be. Now, you have different options along the way for cleaning up Active Directory. That is for inactive computers. But what about computers that someone went in and disabled, right? Well, I may want to do something different than with those computers. So what I can do is I can go back into the automation, and I can create a different automation for computers, which says I'm going to delete the computers, and I want to delete them for any computers that are disabled. So you'll notice that I have different options. So depending on what you want to perform, you may have to create multiple automations. But that's okay. It's so easy to do in ADManager Plus. It's not like PowerShell where you'd have to script all this. You'd have to regression test all this. This is really point and click. Now, I do want to point out one more thing that's happening here. You'll notice that we have chosen to delete something, but we didn't include workflow. Now, another thing that our tool provides over many of the other tools, especially PowerShell, is we have workflow built right into our automations. So if I simply click on this, it now is going to include this concept of workflow. The concept of workflow inside of ADManager in this context is that we don't want a computer to be disabled without an administrator verifying that it should be deleted. Okay? So the way that workflow works is if I come in here and I edit my workflow, you'll see that I have a requester and I have an executor. Now my requesters are actually going to be ADManager Plus. So ADManager Plus, when it's performing the automation, becomes the requester, and then the executor is an administrator. So what's great about ADManager Plus is this idea of workflow is automatically built into the whole process of automation. So there's absolutely no complexity to this whatsoever. Of course, in the workflow, you can either email, you can notify, you have all these different options on how you get each piece along the way to be notified that something is happening. But the whole idea is now, in a very quick 5 minutes, I've shown you how we take a report, we put it into an automation, we can do multiple steps with an automation policy, put that into an automation. So we have the report, we have the policy, we have workflow, you set up a time, and it just works. So the idea of cleaning up Active Directory is really simple, especially if you have the right tool. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, well, I really don't want to clean up computers. Primarily, I want to clean up user accounts. I want to clean up these user accounts that really need to be cleaned up. Well, one of the things that I want to get you thinking about is not just your inactive computers. I want you thinking about more than that. So I'm going to start off with one that really is important to us at ManageEngine, and we've really been trying to educate people around accounts that have never logged on. And these accounts that have never logged on are extremely important for you to clean up, and probably more important than even inactive users. Here's why. If I go back to the creation of a user account, so I'm back here in Active Directory Users and Computers, and if I go and let's just say I create a new user, right? So I come in here, I create a new user, and I then have to put in a password. Many of you might be using the exact same password for every new user that's created. This is a huge security issue, even if you say user must change the password at next logon. The reason it's an issue is if you've been using the same password for all new users over the last 3, 4, 5 years, that means that everyone that's currently in Active Directory knows every new user's password. So it doesn't matter if they change it or not in next logon, they can log on as that account. So what you need to do is you need to go into Active Directory and you need to get first of all, you need to be able to generate reports of users that have never logged on. Now I'm going to highly recommend that you go do this as soon as we get off this webinar. Now, you don't have to use ADManager Plus, it's just ADManager Plus is really simple to do it with because it's a couple of clicks. But this idea of the last logon being 0, it's never logged on before, is really the whole thing. So if your users write an LDAP query from their desktop, query Active Directory to get a list of all users that have a last logon time of 0, they can get this listing. And they can do that without any additional privileges because it's just read-only access. So what you need to do is you need to set up automation policies such that your new automation policy is going to disable users and those users that have never logged on. Users never logged on, right? So now what I can do is I can take advantage of my strong report put it in an automation, and make sure those users are secured every single day. So these are some things that I want you to start thinking about. And with the right tool, it's very easy for you to implement these. Now, before we get moving on too much, I also want to talk about the filters that you may want to set up. So you may have some users that have never logged on, but you know they haven't logged on, and you need them to still be enabled for when they need to log on. Well, what we provide you is, you'll see here that we provide you with additional conditions. So you could come in and say, all right, I want all users except for those that have a, let's say, department is not managers, right? So if I'm a manager, I don't want you to disable my account. And I can also put together and/or options with a whole bunch of different criteria. So yes, the automation allows you to take advantage of a report, but I also want you to see that the automation allows you to filter, refine your results so that you are only targeting the objects that you want to target. And this refinement allows you to really go in and look at the objects that you want to look at, okay? Now, not only do we want to look at cleaning up accounts that have never logged on, we also want to look at accounts that have logged on but have also been expired. So that's a totally different view. And again, with the idea of the automation, it becomes very simple. So I simply come in and say, I want to delete objects that have their accounts that are expired, account expired. So what you can see here is a pattern. And the pattern is, you pick the object type, you pick the task or the automation policy that you want to perform one or more actions on. Then you simply say, over which list, and you're done. So it's really a three-step process. You leverage a report, you leverage an object action, and then you leverage a list, and you put a schedule to it. So no matter what you want to clean up in Active Directory, you're going to be able to do it with ADManager because we already have the reports, and we have the automation built in to leverage those reports, okay? Now, you also have inactive users. So really with users, you have three different types, right? You have those that have never logged on. You have those that are expired. And then you have those that are kind of in between, but you want to make sure that you secure them because maybe you missed them. The user left the organization, but their account is still there. So what we want to do with these types of accounts is we, again, want to set up an automation. So we'll go back to our automation, and I think I have one here already set up. So I'll show you what one looks like already set up. So user automation to deprovision securely. So this is our policy. If I show you what deprovision securely means, that means I'm going to move and disable, right? Similar to what we did to the computer. And I am going to do that with inactive users. And inactive users, I get to specify the days, and then I get to maybe, if it's administrator, then if it's not administrator, then I'm not going to include that. You'll also notice some other filters that I have here as well, disabled, never logged on, which we already talked about. So the power of these automations allow you to quickly set up the automation, and then it just runs in the background. If you want to verify anything happening, you just set up workflow, and every day you get to work, you're going to have an email telling you what ADManager Plus automations we're going to do. And before anything happens in Active Directory, you get to verify that that is actually going to happen. So it's a pretty powerful concept with putting together reports, automation, and workflow. Now, another thing that you may want to do is you want to secure certain accounts. So far we've looked at disabling accounts, and we've looked at deleting accounts. But what about accounts that need their password reset? Now, this is excellent for those that are security conscious and those auditors that are out there. We have passwords that are set to never expire. We have last logon times that are a long time ago. And let's just really focus on that one, right? So the last logon time. Let's say that what I want to do is I want to set up an automation that is going to, let's see, what do I want to do here? I want to reset the password, and then I get to put the password in, say that the user must change it at next logon, and I want to do that for accounts that the passwords don't match, huh? Well, let's just make it simple. I want to do that for accounts that the account is set, account never expires user, okay? So what I can do is I can go in and set up these accounts to actually expire the password. I could also go in and say, all right, if your account hasn't logged on inactive users for, let's say, 90 days, I'm going to go in and I'm going to reset your password. Because obviously if a user hasn't used their account in 90 days, they're not going to all of a sudden use it. And if they do, I want to make sure that I know about that and that they're going to have to reset their password. So this is an excellent way to go in and not just clean up, but also secure your Active Directory environment for different permutations. These are things that your auditors want you to do. These are things that security professionals should be looking at. I was literally 30 minutes ago, I was watching the news, and they were talking about how they're going to increase security around cybercrime, and a professional came on and said, we have to assume that people are in. How can we reduce what they can do now that they're in? These are things that we can do, because we need to make sure that passwords are reset. We need to make sure that no one knows the passwords. We need to make sure that accounts are disabled. We need to make sure that we're not leaving open these areas where someone can come in and just have their way with the network. So these are things you can do in the background to help ensure security for even those that have got through the wall, but now they can't do anything once they're there. Now let's talk about groups. Well, we obviously have empty groups, and I know that you potentially have empty groups. So what I want to do is talk about automations for groups, right? Group automation. And I'm going to go in and delete the group. Again, I can implement workflow for groups without members. Done. Again, I can still come in and add my conditions saying that the group name, group scope, managed by, all these different criteria pop up. So all of these filters are here no matter what you're doing. So again, the mantra is we take a report, we perform an automation, one or more steps on a particular list, and if you want to be involved, you include workflow. It's really that simple. And now you have a listing of all the automations that you have in place. And you'll see that you can keep the automation in place and just disable it if you want to. So I have automations here around the creation, modification, anything, deprovisioning of accounts. So the automation is more than cleanup, it's everything else. Now, I want to switch directions a little bit. Everything that we've done so far is an automation policy, which means something is going to happen to that. But automation isn't only performing actions, it's maybe getting information. So what I want to show you is the ability to actually leverage reports, but do that in a way that is automated. So I'm going to come over here to my AD reports, and I want to show you that I can get a list of groups recursively. Okay? Now, so you'll notice, let me show you this again. I don't want to buzz by this too fast. I have a group report. I want to get group members. I want to get all the details, which means I'm going to get all the users, including nested groups, for, let's say, the administrators. Okay? Now, this is that list of users. You'll see that there are 6 users in the administrators group but some of them are in nested groups. So what I want to do is I want to schedule a report to do this. Now, what I can do is create a schedule for administrators, users, and groups, and then I can generate one or more types of these, indicating where I want to place this. Now, I already have one of these scheduled. Scheduled list, I thought I did. Maybe it disappeared in the seconds that I was gone. Well, here we go. Administrators Group Report. So you'll see that I already have this, and I have it running periodically, daily at 9:45. And I specify the path where I want that to be. So if I go out to that path, you will see that I have a group members report that's a very clean group members report. Why is this important? You have auditors. You have security professionals. You have yourself. You want to know when things change. You can generate one of these reports every day and then do a side-by-side comparison. So you're not performing an action, you're just making sure that things are correct. And you're allowing others in your organization to gain access to this information, which they need to gain access to. But I'm automating the report. So not only can I automate actions, I can automate virtually any report. And I can just dump reports out. And then I have the option to either overwrite the report or I create a new report. So with this idea of automation, it's not just about the action, it's about getting information, either getting information in a report or getting information to then perform an action on that. But if we move away from kind of the basic concepts of users, computers, and groups, we can also clean up group policy because we have GPOs that aren't linked. We have disabled GPOs, and we need to go in and possibly clean these up. We don't have to do it every day, but we should certainly get workflow involved to help us understand the things that are in place. So how do we do that? Well, we go back to ADManager Plus. We go back to this idea of automation. And with automation, what I can do is I can set up back here in my reports, I can set up reports for GPOs. And in here, I have unused GPOs. I have empty GPOs somewhere. I have GPOs with no settings, right? So unused GPOs, I can generate reports. And then from the report, then I can take action on them, okay? Now, we currently don't have the automation built around this, but I'm automating the report. And automating the report is just as important because now it's doing the heavy lifting for me, whether it be a daily, a weekly basis. And you'll see here that I can schedule reports for virtually any report that I have. So this is on the unused GPOs. So you can move beyond the standardized concepts to be able to automate getting information out of Active Directory. Now, can you go in and look at GPOs that aren't linked through Group Policy Management Console? Yes, but that's not going to generate that report daily or weekly. I'm talking about you have the ability to have a report created for you, even emailed to you on a particular basis. So what we're doing here is beyond just manually generating these. These are automatically generating these types of reports. You can also do it with delegations inside of Active Directory. Now, DSACLs is a really powerful tool for you to go in and find out who has delegations in Active Directory. Let me show you how this works here quickly. So if I come in here to a command prompt, I can run DSACLs, and DSACLs up here, you will see that it just requires the LDAP name. So if I do DSACLs on my HROU in my AD solutions.demo domain, you will see that I get a list of my ACLs. Wonderful. I can use this to go in and verify who has access, and then from that I can clean it up. But then what I can do is I can run reports on OUs, so that, not OUs, NTFS reports, so that I can come in and I can run reports on objects that have availability by accounts. So now I can actually run reports, again, schedule reports, so that I know on a daily basis who has permissions to my Active Directory objects. And I can do a day-by-day comparison. Now, I don't want to jump into a totally different product in depth, but I do want to help some of you that are struggling with this idea of these schedule reports and having to do the comparison. We do have a tool called ADManager Plus, which does all this work for you. We can actually set up alerts for when any of these things change. So for example, when I just talked about an OU ACL changing, right here I have an alert set up to where if any ACL changes on any organizational unit, I get an alert in real time. So that would look like this. So if for some reason someone goes into Active Directory, users and computers, they go to an OU, they go in and they, let's say, add in a user to an OU, right, so that they can modify that OU, and they apply that. Well, back here in ADManager Plus, I'm going to receive, let's see, do I have that alert set up? An alert should be set up. Let's see. Love when you do stuff off the cuff, right? So let's go to My Reports, OU permission changes, and that is not coming through right now. So I must have something not set up just right. But really, ADManager Plus. So let me show you another one just to show you that it actually works. So if I come in and I have an alert set up for enterprise admins. So if someone comes in and modifies a group, I have a real-time alert set up, right? So here it is, right? There's the OU was modified. There it is right there. So this came through, and then this came through. So I have real-time alerts on things that are changing, which is better than just doing reports. But again, reports really aren't for administrators. They're for auditors and security professionals. You need ADManager Plus. They need the reports from ADManager Plus. That's really how the combination fits in place, okay? So with regard to automation of cleaning up AD, we need to clean up a variety of things. We need to make sure that accounts that aren't being used are disabled and maybe even deleted. Accounts that can have GPOs applied to them, such as users and computers, we need to move them to a quarantined OU to lock them down. So that's why we have the options for you to perform multiple actions in automation policies versus just a single-step automation. To set up an automation is very simple, so you can set up multiple automations very easily and just have ADManager doing them for you. With regard to some automations, you don't just want ADManager to do the work without verification. That's why we have workflow in place. But not only do you want to perform actions, you may just want reports. So we also allow you to schedule and automate the generation of reports around some of these areas. So these are some things, hopefully, that you, if you've considered them and you didn't think you could do it, well, we actually allow you to do it pretty easily. You just have to have the right tool in place. Hopefully this also gave you some things to think about in terms of, wow, we can actually perform an AD cleanup every day to where when the audit comes, we know we're 100% in compliance. So these are things that we try to help out with. Again, as I said at the beginning, my job, the job of the AD Solutions team, is really to make you more efficient and more secure. And we try to do that with the built-in tools whenever possible, and we also try to leverage Microsoft technology with our tools whenever possible. So that concludes our webinar. Again, I really appreciate your time. I thank you for the questions. I've seen some of them come through. I want to thank my team for being in the background supporting me. It is difficult to answer questions and move through, so thank you so much for that. I know it's the holiday season in the United States, so I want to wish everyone in the U.S. a very happy Thanksgiving, a happy holiday season, no matter where you are in the world. And until the next time that I get to talk with you and help you out, please email me with questions, utilize our resources, and until then, this is Derek Melber, along with the rest of the AD Solutions team. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.